Welcome everyone. In memory, we have discussed till now about the process how memory proceeds any set of information, and within that, we discussed about encoding, storage, and retrieval. Further, we had a discussion about types of memory, within which we discussed about explicit and implicit, and the third, we were about to discuss about the stages. Consisting three dimensions: sensory, short term, and long term. So let's just revise the types of memory as we'll be discussing in detail about the process of memory further. So the types of memory consisting two types, one is being explicit and the second is being implicit. The explicit memory is a type which consists all the knowledge and experience of individual which that person has consciously remembered. The person makes effort to remember all these particular set of information for their particular life. When the individual come across with different incidences, the person come across with different set of information, the person keeps these information remembered in different order, which can be understood in two ways under the explicit memory. The one is called episodic memory, where one individual who has actually gone through set of incidences, set of things of himself or herself, then that information being kept in their mind for long duration, and that is being in terms of an episode being available. So anything which takes place in individuals' life becomes the part of episodic memory. Another type is that is semantic memory, which refers to knowledge of facts and concept about the world. Means the set of information which an individual exposed to and consciously made effort to be remembered, whereas it is not a set of information for which individual being exposed in a manner that he has been or she has been part of that event or incident. Now, semantic memory is a kind of, we can say, that person is learning something in their schooling age, some information being narrated to them, they are preparing for some examination and keeping these particular information with them as made effort to recall, remember these particular information set for the future purpose whenever the things being required. So, when we come across with semantic memory, it will be a set of information which is consciously being remembered by individual for the future purpose. And in the episodic memory, the individual is being part of that. That's why the experience and that particular set of information being kept in mind as a episode of the individual. Now the question comes how we can check that the person has got certain things being remembered as a part of explicit memory. There are tests being available. So for these tests, the first test which is being available, that is called recall test, as simply stated that whatever things being available as an information to individual in past being recalled by being remembered by the individual while that test goes on. The simple example of recalled memory test is an essay test where the individual being asked to write certain things about the given title, and in which the individual tries to recall all set of information which that person has exposed to earlier for remembering these information as a part of their knowledge, as a part of their we can say facts and figures related information. Now, if we can check, this recall memory test is going to be relevant for the more semantic type of memory, where we are trying to make efforts to recall, to remember the information which required in future, but not being part of that particular set of information. Another test to remember, or we can say check the memory, that is a multiple choice test. Now in this we identify which particular set of information is relevant or being already exposed to. Like simple example, a person being provided with a question with multiple answers in it. With respect to that, the person tries to identify which respective answer is being already known to the person, or that person has already got exposure related to that information. Now, in this particular case, the thing may be into episodic memory or a semantic memory, because the episodic memory, if the person being part of that particular activity and has taken such events, such words, such information into their practices can recall them or recognize them in that as a part of episodic memory. If not be part of it, then the person can remember or recognize that particular thing as a part of their semantic memory. Now, the next thing or the third method of measuring memory, it is relearning. Now relearning as itself says that we are learning certain things again. So when the person come across with any set of information which is being exposed to him or her earlier as well, and then in that particular case, if that person recalls that particular thing, this type of information, so how easily, how quickly the person is capable of remembering that information as a part of their memory, that becomes the relearning. So relearning is a process where the person being exposed to the set of information which he has or she has been already exposed earlier. He or she might have forgotten that set of information, but now on the basis of recent exposure, they are remembering that set of information. The speed through which they are able to remember these particular things are going to be relearning. Now, when we look forward for, there are certain things which are forgotten, so that we have already seen in the process of memorizing something. If anything misses for encoding, retrieval, or storage, in these stages, if anything being missed, then the things get forgotten. So, for the overcoming this forgetting dimension, we can come up with what? Relearning dimension. Now, after the explicit memory, we come across with the implicit memory types. Now, within the implicit memory, as we have availability of certain set of information, certain set of knowledge, which cannot be expressed but is being practically used by the individual. So that set of memory which is not consciously being remembered by any individual, the set of information which is being available to any individual but not being consciously made efforts for it, that will be called your implicit memory. So implicit memory refers the influence of experiences on behavior even if the individual is not aware of those influences. Implicit memory refers to the knowledge that we cannot consciously access. So the simplest thing is, if someone is following the other person, in that particular case, the person might not be aware of that, what are the different factors, characteristics being followed by him or her. Now, any incidents or any situation, the person may react in some order, and that reactions will be the individual's implicit memory part, for which the person cannot make conscious efforts to come up with. So behavior is a reaction against any kind of situation, and that situation may be spontaneous. So for that spontaneous thing, the person may come up with an unconscious made efforts related behavior. So this is part of implicit memory. There are three general types of implicit memory being available. One is procedural, second is classical, and third is the primary. So when we look forward for the procedural memory, as it itself says, it is regarding the procedure. So when we can say it refers to our often unexplainable knowledge of how to do things. The idea of implicit memory helps explain how the infant are able to learn. So in the case of procedural memory, we cannot explain that how the person has performed any type of work, but the person is capable of performing the things. Like simple example, an infant child comes up with a demand related to meal. They generate certain dimensions related to how they can demand, how they can identify other person or a mother or a parent, that whether they are demanding for meal, whether they have or some other agencies being available. So all these things are being learned by them. All these things are being given to them. So all these things will be a part of procedural memory. This procedural memory is unexplainable by any individual, related to how they have done that, how they have learned this particular thing, how they have accomplished any task. So when we look forward for any organization, knowledge management is a new concept being evolved. Within knowledge management, the implicit memory or implicit knowledge takes a very vital role, where the organization tries to keep this implicit set of knowledge as a part of organization's knowledge, so that even the individual who possesses such methods, such skills, if that person leaves the organization, even though that particular thing can be carried out. So how to do things is not possible to be explained, but when organizations receive how the things being done, they may take this as a procedure where the individual's implicit knowledge being utilized. Now moving ahead with the classical conditioning. So classical conditioning being given by a is a given concept from Ivan Pavlov. So now in this particular case, the individual tries to learn about anything through stimulus response or relationship. The stimulus is the multiple stimuli unit as a set of information or data available to individual, which that person get exposed to through sensory organs. These sensory organs may be tongue, nose, and we can say skin. So all these, or we can say smell can, or even eyes can come up with the sensory, come under the sensory organs, eyes, ears. So now when the person gets set of information, that set of information being correlated with some other set of information, and then the meaning being drawn. For this, the experiment being carried out over a dog, where we can simply identify this through a depiction that the dog being bred with a pill without any kind of services, the dog being served with meat without any kind of condition being attached to it, and there later on the dog is served with meat while the bell being rang. So the dog has conditioned himself that how the meat is being served to them. So the next time whenever the bell rings, there was a saliva in the mouth of dog, because he understood that whenever there will be a bell, there will be supply of meal or meat to him. So this is how the classical conditioning works, and the memory part is takes place. So the third, which is available as a part of, we can say, memory under implicit memory, that is priming. Now we can refer to this, that is, it refers to both it refers both to activation of knowledge that can be, and to influence of that activation on behavior. That is, for example, we can prime the concept of kindness by presenting people with word related to kindness, and people who are primed with the concept of kindness may act more kindly. My means simple example, when we look forward for that, when we come across with certain set of knowledge to individual, and we just want to check how that particular set of knowledge has influenced the behavior of individual, that will be coming up as a part of priming under the implicit. So simple example, as we can see all these particular words with the filling some alphabets, some letters being missing. So if we look forward for these particular words, we can identify the results for this, and if we find certain context related to these particular words, we'll have easiness related to getting these particular words into understanding. Now just taking these particular words, we can simply identify the words are consisting being library and book. If these first and third word are consisting library and book as words, so if I give you a context related to library, if I give you context related to a place where the different set of knowledge related things are being kept in your Almira, so we can simply then correlate with the library and books, whereas the rest thing is not possible to be taken against the context, because of they are not aligned with the similar dimension. So we'll be just checking what are the two other words we can check at our own level. Now there are certain things which is being given. So this is the sentence being given: he got the material from shelves, checked them out, and then left the building. So after reading this statement, we can simply identify first and third word are relative to library and book. So this can be taken as a part of our context. Now moving ahead, so this is related to when we look forward for our